we have the announcements sheet. People in the room can have it, but I'm also going to put it into the chat as a Drive document because there are links on it, and I just want you to get the links. So bear with us for just a minute as we do that. First of all, don't forget your dues. It's January, and it's time to renew your dues to National and to our chapter. Our chapter dues are only $20 a year, and you can take care of all that at this one web page. And that's it. That's a link on our document. Please do that soon. It helps us because we have to chase people down if people don't renew, and it just helps us. Also, we are looking for volunteers. We always are looking for volunteers, and we have an opening for the secretary position, which is the person who keeps the minutes from our meetings. But now that we have the Zoom AI to take notes for us, that is pretty much a done deal. You just get those notes and organize them and figure it out, and that's it. And then, of course, the secretary position is a voting position on the board of directors. So we would love to have you come and join us. We have that open position. And also, we need volunteers to help with our July workshop. Now, our planning is going to start this month for the July workshop. And so if you'd like to get involved in that, that involves, it's not heavy duty, but if you have skills like you do graphic design or social media, or there's a lot that we can use help with, and then set up, take down, and all those things at the July workshop. We're going to have Jenny Myers-Sane speak for us, and Terry Shepard is going to speak for us. It's going to be a great day in July. I have a link for a short story contest. It's 6,000 words, and the winner gets $3,500. I was so taken with this prize that I thought I'm going to put that up as an announcement because there might be some short story writers out there. Not me. I'm not a short story writer, but if you write short, you can get in on this short story contest. It'd be great. We are offering a monthly marketing mastermind and writing lab that is once the first Monday of the month, which is this Monday. You get to come into a training, marketing training for book launches and book tables and how to get your book out into the marketplace without relying on social media. It's real world techniques and tactics. There's a link there for that. And then we're joining with Marie Morton, who is from Literary Indulgence, to do a marathon writing challenge at the end of February. So there's a link for that. If you are stuck on your book and you want to dedicate a weekend, it starts at 6 o'clock on Friday and ends at 6 o'clock on Sunday. And we have got some extra perks thrown in there. These weekend challenges are really great for making a lot of progress. Go ahead and take a look at that. On January 24th is the Sunshine State Book Festival. It is in Gainesville at the Santa Fe College between Gainesville and Alachua, and it's free. So if you want to come and cruise through the books, the tables are all sold. So they're sold out. You can't get a table, but you could come and join us. I'm going to have a table. I know a couple other people that are having tables. Come on down, and I'd love to see you. Next month, Gwen Goodrich is a retired FBI operative, agent, whatever you call them. Ed's here. He'll correct me. Gwen is going to be here, formerly with the FBI, and she's going to be at the library. So we're going to be meeting at the library with our speaker. We're also going to be meeting via Zoom. Come back in, and that is February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, but 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m. That's not going to interfere with your Valentine's plans. And then March 7th, Merle Davenport, who from the Oklahoma Department of Corrections, is going to be our speaker. So we've got a lineup of speakers this entire year of people who are experts in some aspect of crime solving to help our authors with their research. I'm delighted to welcome back. This is a second return of Lynda because she did so great the first time. Lynda J. Berg Herring is a native of Orange County, California. So everybody honors to Lynda for showing up at 7:15 a.m. her time. She has worked in the investigation industry for 41 years and obtained her private investigator license and began doing business as LJB Investigations in June of 1996. And that is way before we had the open mindedness of women entering a field like this. Hats off to you, Lynda. Prior to entering the PI field, Miss Herring was employed in law enforcement, and she also danced professionally, having originally studied to be a ballerina. She graduated from Rio Hondo Police Academy and possesses a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and psychology and a master's degree in public administration. She describes herself as a general investigator and conducts many types of investigations, including asset searches, background checks, cyber crimes, due diligence, elder abuse, fraud, personal injury, tenant screening, workers' compensation, and more. Lynda's passion lies in the fight against sex trafficking and sextortion, especially of children. She lives in Coto de Caza with her husband Scott, who is also a private investigator, and their spy pup, Mannix. Love that name. The old detective Mannix. Yeah, I love him. Welcome, Lynda.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Yeah, the Mannix, and my Mannix is just like the TV Mannix. Any lady, he is all over. He loves the ladies. So yeah, it is such an honor to be here. Can I share a PowerPoint?
Oh, yes, go ahead. You're a co-host, so you should have a share down there.
I do. Let's see if I can make this work really fast here. I hate when it hides half the thing so I can't see the... Oop, hold on. Bear with me. I do this like constantly. You would think I'd be better at it, but oops. I'm trying to get the slideshow. There we go. There. Okay, there we go.
There you go. Yep, that looks perfect.
Thank you. So a little bit in the beginning kind of repeats what you said, a little of this at the beginning. But first, thank you so much for inviting me back again. I just love hanging out with you ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here. Yeah, like we said, I am from California. This photo here of me and these three boys, these are my three big brothers. And it's very funny. That was taken in 1963. And if you stand us up together, we basically look the same, like stair steps still. All these years later. Anyway, all three of my brothers are Eagle Scouts, so I grew up around lots of strong men and community active people, which was great. My claim to fame, I always say, is my one and done pageant career. I was the very first ever Little Miss Yorba Linda many years ago. And this ballerina photo, that's proof. I really did train to be a ballerina. That's what I was supposed to be, but as we all know, life does not always turn out as planned. I went from ballet to working what was supposed to be a temporary clerical job at my local police department before I was to head off to New York and join the New York City Ballet, which had accepted me for membership. And I sustained a knee injury that ended my career in a split second. So when that happened, obviously I had to pivot a lot, and I stayed in law enforcement. I worked clerical for a while, and then I did work undercover narcotics for a few year, which was fun. No one suspects a ballerina of being a cop. So it was a very fun transition. And that's a whole other thing topic to talk about. Sorry. As Lana just said when she introduced me, I've actually been in the industry now for 43 years. I need to update my bio. And licensed for 29, which I love. I investigate anything and everything you can think of. The last couple of years, I added in cellular forensics, which is really cool. I have this, I should have got it out so I could show it, but I have this handy dandy gadget called a data pilot, and it looks like a double thick cell phone, but it can copy literally everything off any electronic device. And I use that a lot in trafficking and sextortion cases to gather evidence. So it's fun. Some people think it's fun. It's fun. It's very fun. And then just so that to become a private investigator in California, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. It's different from state to state. It's not like on TV and in books where people go, oh, I think I'm going to be a private investigator, and I am one. It's not like that. You have to work for it. Since I was in law enforcement for a while, I really had my hours that I needed to have to become licensed. But since I worked for the world's greatest boss when I first started working as a PI, I got way more than this required 6,000 hours of work. I worked for her for 12 years. So 6,000 hours is 3 years full time. But there's a lot to learn on the job. There's no schooling out here that really teaches you how to be a private investigator. There are some college courses, but they don't teach all the ins and outs and all the laws and things that you need to know. On the job training is definitely better. So I just put that up there just for an example for what we have to do. And then being a lady PI, okay, in 1981, when I was first hired, only 10% of private investigators were women. So we were definitely an anomaly. My boss was an amazing female private investigator, very strong lady. This year, I checked the stats just yesterday, and 47.7 to 48.4% of PIs are female now, depending on which survey you look at. But still, over the years, I've attended a lot of conferences, and as recently as last year, where the ratio of men to women PIs was easily 10 to 1. So there's a lot of us licensed. There's not as many that are out there actively doing the job or attending conferences or things like that, because some are not as comfortable being in the middle of a man's world doing this stuff, because the men can be ruthless. No offense to any men that might be here. And then in 1996, right after I obtained my license, it was so funny. I attended a conference in New Orleans where a male investigator actually looked at my name badge and saw that it was my name and my company name, and he asked if my husband had allowed me to go to the conference. I was like, no, I did not ask permission. For that matter, the husband I was married to at that time, different than the one I'm married to now, told me I couldn't go to that conference. Tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. So, real life PIs versus fictional PIs. My husband always laughs at me because when we watch something on TV, especially a recent movie or a TV show with a private investigator, I tend to yell at the TV because about 99% of what they show the PI's doing is illegal. There are some private investigators out there that do have reality shows. There's one right now called, oh my gosh, it's about romance scams. And I just blanked on the name of the company. The PI is Brianne Joseph, and she's a friend of mine, actually. And she's real. What she does on the show is real. She's talking about real cases, mostly romance scams. But even real life PIs who have done supposed reality shows sometimes go out there and do things we're not supposed to. So we are not like any of these awesome people on this list, all of which I love to watch. But we're not allowed to just randomly get phone records. Or I frequently get phone calls from people that say, can you get my husband's text messages? No, I can't. It's illegal. The device I have that I talked about a minute ago, that I can access everything off of electronic device. When I use those, it's usually a teenager's phone, which really belongs to the parent. And I have the permission of the owner of the phone. So I can't just randomly get someone's text messages, just like I can't randomly get someone's banking records. There's all kinds of privacy laws and things, and we have to get permission or subpoenas or things like that to get that information. And also DMV. It is amazing how often, typically a male, will ask me to run a license plate because he wants to find out who that beautiful woman was that was driving the car. Totally illegal. We cannot do that. And since I don't want to go to prison, I don't do those things. And then the advantages of hiring a female private investigator in particular, we are just by nature less intimidating or threatening than a male. I'm like 5'1" if I stand up really straight and my hair's puffy. So I'm short. I'm a little lady. And especially when I started out, I was so young, I looked like a kid. And so definitely not as intimidating or threatening, although I can be mean when I need to. My mantra is, though she be but little, she is fierce. And I do live that way, depending on what I'm working on. But women by nature have more empathy, so we're more relatable to people. I can establish a rapport very easily with people. It is not uncommon for me to be standing in the line at the grocery store and someone tells me their whole life story while we're standing there. I guess I have one of those faces. Women, as we know, are better listeners and more effective communicators. We can be very versatile in our appearance, so it's easier to infiltrate social circles or, like I said, establish a rapport. Women naturally are better at multitasking and attention to detail. And I'm really not bashing men by this, okay? I promise. And then intuition and creativity are like number one. I use my intuition all the time. And by the way, I know a lot of male private investigators who agree with every single thing that's on this slide. So they will admit it, no matter how serious they are, how long they've been investigators, they still admit that there are advantages to using a female. So my passion for protecting children came from the very beginning. My first boss focused mostly on workers' comp investigations. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be investigating a bunch of insurance stuff. Boring, but at the same time, interesting. But we got a missing child case very early on, maybe a week or two after she hired me. And really, it was a trafficking case. They didn't call it trafficking then, but this little 10-year-old was kidnapped by her uncle, brutally abused for about 72 hours, and then he sold her to his friends for sex. We found her within a week, but can you imagine how long that week was for that little girl? And aside from the fact, the physical things that she experienced, obviously there's the emotional and the mental abuse as well. And then she had to go through a trial, and there's been parole hearings and all that kind of stuff over the years. At that point, I was like, I will do anything to help a child. And I personally have never given birth to a child, but I have a lot of them out there because I've worked a ton, hundreds, if not thousands of cases involving kids over the last 43 years. And on cases involving kids, I stay in contact with them as long as they want me around. That little 10-year-old girl that was involved in that case in 1981, she and I are friends to this day, which is awesome. She's amazing. Once in a while, I get her to speak. Most of the time, she stays quiet in the background, but pretty amazing. And then I was asked to describe my scariest experience. And when working workers' comp cases, insurance companies want investigators out as soon as possible if there's a serious injury, like someone loses an arm or a limb or a leg, arm or a limb, an arm or a leg, or there's a death on the job. So very early on, maybe a month or two after I started working as an investigator, I was sent out on an accidental death on a construction site. An iron worker had fallen from scaffolding, which, could happen. The employees, of course, are immediately sent home. Law enforcement shows up, does their thing, and then they send people home. So by the time I got out there, my main witness, the person that had been on the scaffolding with the person that had died, had been sent home. So I call the guy, make an appointment, and all he can do is meet me very late at night at his home because he was going out of town the next day. This occurred in Los Angeles County in a very scary area where this little Orange County girl had never been before. But I was like, I was a cop. I'm tough. I can go wherever. So I drive my little white Fiero right up to this guy's house, park on the street and in front of his house. And I go walking up. And of course, there's a big mean dog in the yard. It was like the classic scary thing on TV. And I'm like, hello. The guy comes and gets me, gets his dog, 10:30 at night in this dark, creepy neighborhood. When the guy opened the door, he looked out like he had to make sure that it wasn't someone bad that was after him. And it's little teeny me. I wasn't sure I wanted to walk inside his house, but I had to. And when we went inside, it was decorated, shall we say, quite creatively with a bunch of half-empty takeout containers and utensils and empty beer and liquor bottles and drug paraphernalia. It was horrible, just awful inside. Reeked of marijuana. I aged myself by saying marijuana, but anyway. And who knows what else. I just didn't want to touch anything, didn't want to sit down, but I had to. And then this guy who was covered in tattoos, some obvious jailhouse style tattoos, and he was huge. He was like 6'6" and weighed like 300 pounds. And I was this teeny little thing looking up at him like, can we sit down and talk? So my assignment was to obtain a handwritten statement from him. So I handwrite the statement, and then I have him read it, initial it, and sign it. When he's reading it, he's supposed to make any corrections or changes. Okay, so he agreed, and I started talking to him. So this interview did not go exactly as planned. I'm asking the questions. I said, what happened? And he said, oh, I killed that. He said the whole word there. And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I am not going to make it out of this house. This was like so scary. And so I asked him to explain what had happened. And I'm just writing. And I don't know if he thought he's just talking to some dumb little girl that wasn't going to write what he said, or if he was trying to scare me or not, is what I was at the time. I was like, he's got to be making this up. But no, he said, that guy sold me some bad crack, so I killed him. He's lucky I didn't make him suffer. Scary, very scary. So clearly I made it out of there alive. I finished the statement. I wrote exactly what he said. And so when I got done, I handed him these papers, these pages I'd been writing on, and said, okay, I need you to read this, write in any corrections and initial them and sign the last page. He did not read it. He literally just flipped through the pages, initialed them and signed it and handed it back to me. We later found out he did not think I wrote what he said. So I went directly from his house, and I have never driven as quickly as I did that night to get out of that neighborhood, for starters. Went to the local police station and walked in there with this statement shaking in my hands and said, this guy just confessed to murder. And to start with, the desk officer and the watch commander thought I was crazy. They gave me all kinds of grief for being there. And my boss the next morning just about killed me for going so late at night. But I was doing my job. I was very determined to get the job done and get it done right. Ultimately, I was the #1 witness against this guy in the murder trial. He didn't see that coming at all. So the look on his face when I was called to the stand was priceless. He was sentenced to 25 years to life based on that crime and a very lengthy violent criminal history. So I have never been in a situation that scary since. These days, when it's something that might be scary, I send someone else. So not that I'm afraid to go, but I'm too old to go. I just go, nope, not doing it. I am more focused now on kids and kids' safety. And my husband would probably kill me. So a typical day, not that exciting. This is really what I do right here. I have coffee or tea. I cuddle my dog. I check emails, lots of emails. When I started this job, email barely existed. The internet barely existed. I remember the first time I got to do a dial-up modem for something to send a fax. And then when we got online and we started doing emails, online, all of this stuff, the internet and things are a blessing and a curse in this job, because there are things I can access that I couldn't access before, but there's also a lot of things that now we're blocked from that we used to be able to get. It's a blessing and a curse. I make a lot of phone calls, spend a lot of time talking to people, lots of time digging on the internet as well, which, like I said, can be good, can be bad. A lot of people are very pro artificial intelligence. Personally, I use it for creativity, but not to investigate. And that's because a lot of what's out there, if you do a Google search, Google your own name, a lot's going to show up that's real, but there's also going to be a lot of information on there that's not accurate. And AI now, if you Google at the very top, there's automatically an AI response. And it's really funny. Not too long ago, I was looking for a gentleman who I knew his name, his date of birth, the city he lived in for sure, and the state he lived in. And I did a Google search, and instead of it coming up with this real person who I knew of that's here in Southern California, it came up with a restaurant in Rhode Island and said it couldn't find my guy. And I was like, I had real information that was accurate. So that happens. And the same thing, not too long ago, I did a post on Facebook with my dog. His name is Mannix. He has his own Facebook page called The Adventures of Spy Pup Mannix. And AI said that I had named him after an author who I've never heard of named David Mannix. No, he's named after Mannix, the TV character. But anyway, so AI is not always totally accurate. So we need to remember that's important, even though writing is creative, but still. I did use it when I recently had to come up with a mission statement for my business, which I am somewhat ashamed to admit I'd never done before. But I was asked to join the board of A Million Kids, which is a nonprofit that focuses on education of children and adults regarding how to stay safe online. Before they were going to vote for that, they wanted my mission statement, and I hadn't written one. So I went to ChatGPT and said, please write me a mission statement. I put my company name, what I do, little details I asked for. And the only part of what it responded back with that I could use was Investigator. All the other stuff it had in there was things I do not do. So that was interesting. But it helped me with the format. And that was really what I needed. I just wasn't sure how to format it. I do a lot of witness interviews now, very rarely via phone, a lot via Zoom, because we'd like to see who we're talking to, and a lot in person still. And I enjoy doing that. I like going out and talking to people. And then I do a lot of research via databases to start with, and then reviewing documents. I go to the courthouse and review court files. There's a lot of paper involved. I frequently get paper cuts. And then report writing, which is the least favorite part of my job. I know we're all writers here, but sometimes writing reports is just not that exciting. I said. And then over the years, the cases, I've done a lot of interesting cases, a lot of boring cases, but the most valuable smoking gun I ever found saved a client $10 million. And that was a fender bender car accident led to this case. And it was a gentleman who lived in Irvine, California, but he was on vacation in Canada and he was rear-ended. Didn't even have to go to the hospital or anything when he got rear-ended. He was fine. The police report said nobody was injured, and literally it was like paint transfer damage on the cars. It was a big nothing. But this guy connected with an attorney buddy of his and decided to file a huge claim. He was literally suing for $10 million. And my client had me do surveillance of this man who claimed all of a sudden, because of this horrible injury he sustained, that he couldn't play with his 3-year-old son, and he couldn't go to work, and he couldn't do anything around the house, and all these things. So during surveillance, we followed him to work several days in a row. He somehow managed to go every day. We got him at the park with his 3-year-old son, throwing him up in the air and swinging him around and doing things that parents do with rambunctious 3-year-olds. So clearly dad had no problem doing those things. And we kept sending in the video, and this guy's attorney was like, nope, no, that was just a one-time thing. He doesn't do that regularly. So they had us do more surveillance. I don't think I've had a case where I've done so much surveillance in all these years. They kept saying more, more, more. We want more hours. Okay. It was a great moneymaker for me. And finally, it got to the point where they were getting ready for trial. I was going to have to go to Canada and testify. And my client said, this guy now is claiming he was offered a contract with another company, not the one he currently works for, and he was going to make 5 times more income than he's making now. So is there any way you can find that contract? And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. We'll see what I can find. So I started Google searching, and literally on page 27 of the Google results, like the 4th thing down the page, here's the company this guy claimed he had the contract with. And sure enough, there is the contract. The contract was almost 300 pages long. Page number like 279 referred to my subject of my investigation. And he was, in fact, offered a job at the exact same amount of money he'd been making already. So that right there blew their case out of the water completely. And in Canada, I didn't know this before this case. In Canada, if you file a false claim, which the claim, as soon as this information was shown to the client's attorney, they dumped him. They dismissed their case. They just wanted to walk away. But in Canada, that guy had to pay all the money that the insurance company had used to try to defend the claim. So many thousands of dollars that they paid me, and all the other, what they paid their attorney. So that was great. I saved the client $10 million by finding that little thing on Google. They probably would have lost the case without that contract. The worst injury I've sustained was a slashed thigh, which sounds scarier than it was. But I had served a subpoena on this guy in a not so nice neighborhood. And he calmly walked down to the sidewalk with me after I served him at his front door, and then reached out and freaking had a knife and slashed the side of my leg. And luckily I was with someone else at the time. Usually 99% of the time I work alone. That day I had somebody driving. Why he didn't go up to the door and serve the paperwork, I don't remember why we did that, but for some reason we had me go to the door. But totally minor. It was not a big deal. It was scary at the time, obviously. And then I have to say, about 2 months ago, anyone that knows me on Facebook saw some really scary pictures of me a couple months ago. I was walking on a sidewalk, and my shoe caught like a little teeny raised area on the sidewalk. Maybe it was up maybe a quarter of an inch high. and I slammed to the ground face first. It was not fun. So that was a worse injury actually than the thigh thing. But anyway, so typically we don't really get injured. I don't get in car chases and those kinds of things. The only accident I've ever been in while driving was when my then boss's neighbor ran a stop sign and hit my car. So I was half a block away from work. So not all that dangerous with the driving situation. I do drive a lot. The highest amount of assets I've ever found on a case was $250 million. And this was usually when I get hired for an asset search, I find $10,000, $100,000, something like that, a hidden piece of property somewhere. This guy had filed bankruptcy. And so the attorney representing a couple of the banks where this guy had some huge debts is who hired me. And they said they knew the guy played poker as a hobby, and they thought he might live in this penthouse suite in Marina del Rey, California. So they wanted surveillance and wanted to find out what he was doing, and then they wanted assets. It ended up, this guy was in fact living in this penthouse place and driving. When we did surveillance, he changed out between 3 different Ferraris that he was driving and a McLaren, which I recognize because that's like my dream car. So he had over $1 million in just vehicles that he was actively driving. And I'm like, okay, so he's got that. And then he was playing poker. And a lot of these people that play poker sort of semi-professionally, those games are online. So I found him live playing poker at some big, huge poker tournament, I think in Las Vegas, where he lost a lot of money and laughed about it. So he clearly wasn't too concerned. And then we followed him one night where he went out with 3 other people, his girlfriend and another couple. And in one night, from what we could document, just from following him, he spent like $50,000 on a night out. Like they went to a super fancy restaurant, got the most expensive bottle of wine you could get ×3. They went to a place where they could do a private karaoke room, and then they went to a jewelry store. So spent a ton of money. But the big thing that I found was this guy had businesses in 4 other states. And those businesses were worth a lot of money. And he had huge properties that he had transferred illegally to his cousin after filing the bankruptcy that were worth millions of dollars. And we ultimately came up with I think it was $252 million total in assets that we found. Needless to say, his bankruptcy did not go through. He did, however, go to prison for a little while for a bunch of financial crimes. So this stuff it's all fun to do. I love finding that. I'm like a dog with a bone when I'm looking for something. I do not give up. The work that's most gratifying, of course, is finding or rescuing missing and trafficked kids. And then the last couple of years, I started, since I met the founder of Million Kids, I've been doing a lot of speaking. I do workshops on sextortion and trafficking, teaching kids how to stay safe. And if anyone doesn't know what sextortion is, it's new-ish. It's been around for a while, but it's new-ish. And that's where someone online, what appears to be a teenage girl starts talking to a teenage boy. They flirt. She convinces the boy to send a photo, a nude photo or a video. And the second she's got that, she has that video or photo, they demand money. And these cases are leading kids to commit suicide. There's been 56 so far documented suicides, all but one were a teenage boy. Because these predators, when the kids can't send them a bunch of money, basically encourage them to kill themselves. It's terrible, heartbreaking. So I do out and talk to kids and parents. I do it in person. I do it virtually. So it's super, super important. And then I wrote a book. So excited. This is my book. This is all my contact info. This is basically the end of my presentation. So if anyone has questions, feel free. But so excited that I finally wrote a book. And it is an itty bitty book. I did that on purpose. It's only 35 pages long. And I did that because the topic is such a tough topic. People don't want to read a 150-page long book on sextortion and trafficking. So anyway, that's where I did that. So this is all my contact info. And I don't know, does anybody have any questions or anything you want to ask me? Anyone? Unmute yourself.
Mute. Lynda.
Yes.
Hi, this is Elaine. In all of your years of work, the murders, how many murders have you actually been involved in? We've talked a lot about your investigations for fraud and sextortion, things like that, but how about anything having to do with murder investigations?
I've only done 3 or 4 over all the years because I don't tend to do criminal stuff. Most of mine
Okay.
is civil.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's only been a few. Yeah. So it's they're what I always say, they're all the same. The way an investigation works, no matter what it is, if it's criminal or if it's civil, it's the same thing. It's identifying the witnesses and getting them to talk to you. Really. It's like the bottom line. And then
Right.
if there's physical evidence, gathering the physical evidence, but it doesn't matter if it's criminal defense or if it's civil or anything else. That's pretty much all the same. It's not as exciting to say, ooh, that guy didn't really get that paper cut at work as it is, ooh, I solved a murder. But
Right. So you say there's a similar process to everything with
yeah.
identifying witnesses, talking to them, and looking for evidence, and just
Mhm.
digging through stuff. And you talked a lot about digging through paperwork and records and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of digging.
Yes. I
And then
noticed you
getting
had
people
lots
to,
in capital letters, lots of
yes,
digging.
lots of digging, and then getting people to talk to you that don't want to, which I'm pretty good at. I think there's only been once or twice in all these years that someone just flat out refused to talk to me. So I'm
Uh-huh.
proud of that because they don't
Yeah.
have to talk to me. I'm not a police officer. I can't make them talk to me. So I have to gain their cooperation and
Sure. But you're not intimidating, so they don't worry about talking to you.
well, I can be intimidating.
Oh, when you choose, okay.
Yeah, when I have to be, I can be. But yeah, most people just naturally want to help. I will approach it frequently and just say, "Can I ask you to help me a little bit?" Or I could use a little assistance. I make it where I'm asking them to help. And most people naturally want to help someone.
We've got a question in the room here. Here we go. John Campbell.
Okay.
No, hi. So I came in a little bit late. Forgive me if I'm asking something that you already went over. But what do you think about the fact that fictional PIs, a lot of what they do is illegal? And what are some of
Well,
those things?
I know. I have to say, like, I loved Sue Grafton's books because, that Kinsey Milhone character is awesome, but pretty much like everything she does is illegal. And Sue Grafton was a speaker at a conference that I was at, a PI conference. And it was just the funniest thing because she stood up there to talk and she goes, I know everything I do is illegal. Get over it. So it was great. But what happens because of that, people call me all the time and go, okay, I need you to do this. This is what I need. And they give me this list. And most of what they ask for is illegal. And I tell them, I cannot get that for you. And they go, but I saw it on TV, or I saw it in that movie, or I read it in that book. And I'm like, you realize that's all entertainment and it's not real. So it can be a little frustrating. It's so different. But and I guess you missed the part where I said I yell at the TV when I watch private investigators on TV. And my husband, who is also an investigator, laughs at me. And I go, it's not funny because it makes us look shady. And there's a lot like the Rockford files. I loved the Rockford files. But he did so many things that were illegal. He'd show up at the police department and go, run this plate. We can't do that. And people assume that we can, or they show them, obviously lying and making up things that they're not supposed to do. And it makes a lot of people think private investigators are shady. We are not all shady. Some of us are honest and ethical. Most of us are honest and ethical.
That makes me feel better because my editor questioned me. I read a series with a female PI, and she said, wait a minute, she can't do that because that's illegal. And I said, but it's on every TV show and every book.
Right?
And Magnum PI does it.
Yeah, no.
So I like Sue Grafton said, get over it. Okay.
Yeah, she was like, just get over it.
Well, that's basically what I told her. But
yeah, it's entertainment. It's not real. Yeah.
What about recording? I read this book and but it's set in London, where in London you walk down the street and you're on like 3 cameras. So I guess maybe the laws are different there, but they're always recording people on their phones, and then that's going to be evidence without telling the person they're recording them.
Like in California, everybody involved in the conversation has to give permission. Some states are a one-party state where only one person has to know it's being recorded. Here, yeah, I can't record anything without permission, unless There's always an unless. If it is a criminal investigation, if I'm investigating a crime and it's not safe for me to tell them that they're being recorded, I can do it. I've done that like twice in 43 years. So it's not a very common thing. But like law enforcement can record a witness or a defendant. Oh, look, my alarm's going off. It's time for me to wake up now. Forgot that was set. But yeah, recording is something that, and people do, they get in trouble for that. It's not, they don't mess around with that. You cannot record without permission, especially here. And there's other states. I think about half the states are two-party states and a lot of other countries. But now if you're walking down the street, I had someone not too long ago on a child custody case, and dad yells and screams at the kids. Mom wanted to get evidence of that. And I said, I can't record him. If he's in the house and I'm standing on the sidewalk and I hear him screaming, I can't record that. But I could record him with me sitting in a parking lot and him standing in that parking lot screaming at his kids, which he did, which was disgusting that he was doing that. But I was able to legally get proof that he was doing that by recording him without his permission. But they're like, one judge didn't want to accept it, another judge said it was okay. So that was interesting. But if you're out in public, yeah,
no expectation of privacy.
And same with surveillance. I don't personally do much surveillance because I find it boring. My husband, that's all he does. He's very good at sitting still and staring at a building for hours. Not my thing. But with that, we can't record through a window, or people will say, I want video of when they go to the hotel room, can you peek in the window and see what they're doing? No, we can't. And we can't record like over a backyard fence. Because yeah, if the person has an expectation of privacy, you're not allowed to video that. So I get that question a lot too. Can't you just like video through the window? No. Do you want someone to video through your window?
Earlier, you mentioned you have a device that copies, I didn't catch what you called it, a device that copies like electronic.
Yes, it's called a data pilot. And it looks like an oversized cell phone, like a double thick cell phone. It's locked away safe because it's insanely expensive. A million kids got it for me. And it can copy everything off a phone, especially, or any other electronic device, including things that have been deleted. Which is great. So I've used that quite a bit on sextortion and trafficking cases, trying to track down who the kids were talking to or where there might be. It's a fantastic thing. It's very expensive. If someone goes, can you copy my phone? I go, yeah, that'll only be $2,500. It's not like a cheap thing to do, but when we need it, it's well worth the cost. Yeah, it's a great device.
So a follow-up on that, if someone is a client of yours and their child has been involved in this sextortion, by getting the material off of that child's phone, you also get the other person's text message and pictures and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why we do it, is to identify who they're talking to, hopefully identify who they're talking to. Yeah. And on sextortion cases, it hasn't been talked about that much. So a lot of people don't even know what it is. So these kids that have committed suicide, the parents, it's obviously a heartbreaking situation all around, but the parents wake up in the morning and discover that their child has committed suicide, and they call the police, and the police go, oh, your kid must have been depressed. And the parents, no, he was not depressed. He was very happy and excited last night. We're going to go see colleges this morning, going on vacation or whatever. And in many of the cases, it was the parents or a sibling of the victim that figured out that this person was being talked to by a predator online. And then law enforcement, either local law enforcement or the FBI or Department of Homeland Security, gets into it and investigates it and discovers it's a sextortion case. So it's more commonly now being identified, which is good. A lot of those cases go totally unreported because people are embarrassed or ashamed or afraid to report it, which is really sad. And that's why I go out and talk about it. So kids are hopefully not afraid to report when something happens. And they certainly don't need to kill themselves. It's like crazy that kids feel like that's all they can do.
Are you aware of like resources that just regular people like us writers could access to check on things like what police procedures would be in a certain situation, or what a private investigator could or couldn't do in a certain situation?
Yeah, it's Google it. That's terrible. But literally, you can research a lot. You can get a lot of that stuff online. You can do obviously beyond just Googling it. But yeah, you can dig in a little bit online and search for whatever your question is, either police procedures, how does a private investigator do this or do that? And you can find out, or people are always willing to talk.
I'm
So
guessing that varies from state to state too.
it does. Yeah, absolutely. I guess we don't have to keep staring at my page here. Let's see. There we go. It's really big and bright here on my end. Any other questions, anybody?
That angle here.
Oh, that's fine.
Just turn the camera off. Thank you so much.
Of course. This has
This
been
has
so
been
fun.
fabulous. Yeah, thank you.
And
And as always, we will send you the recording so you can
thank
have.
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm so glad that you invited me again to do this. This is great. So I love Sisters in
refreshing.
Crime. I should probably
It's-
join Sisters in Crime.
I can send you a membership form right away.
Yeah, I really should. Yeah, I've talked to a few chapters and yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, you can get on the speaker list on the website if you're a member. And
Ah,
the chapters do look at those lists because they need speakers all the time. Yeah, the link for that is in this announcement. So that's in the chat. If you just want to go pick up that document, you can just go right in
okay.
here and
Lana,
join.
Lana,
Yes.
this is Elaine. Earlier you said when we first started talking that AI is now capturing notes. Does that capture notes on this meeting, or were you referring to like board meeting notes or something like that, minutes?
Whenever you're on Zoom, you can choose to have the note taker record notes. And after the meeting is over, we get an email with a list of bullet points of various topics and things that were said. And then it's easy to just adjust that, edit it,
right.
and have the notes of the meeting. So we use it for an event like this. We also use it for our board meetings, just so we have record of what has been said and all that. And
Yeah.
it's made our board meeting minutes very quick to turn around.
Yeah, great, great. I'd like to watch this again when you send out the recording, but I'm a hoarder, so I save all my notes. So that's why I thought if I can get that, I can look back. I've got about 5 pages here that I wrote down. So thank you,
Nice.
Lynda.
Of course. I love that. I write notes too. So when I'm watching someone speak, I'm scribbling away. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
When I'm at a party, I always have paper and pencil with me so I can write down things that people are going to tell me because I want to remember it later and I won't remember it.
Right.
Yeah. We have another question. Is there one point you wish writers would honor in their writing about crime?
And I responded in there, but I just put that perhaps that not all private investigators use shady tactics to get the job done, because that seems to be it used to be, I would say, it was a private investigator, and people go, oh, like I was this horrible person that does these shady things. But no, and if we do something that's not done legally, it kills the case. So you can't provide evidence it wasn't legally accessed. So that was something that when Opal Singleton, the founder of A Million Kids, when I was introduced to her, the very first thing she said to me was, I hate private investigators. And we are like the best of friends, but we instantly bonded. But that was the first thing she said, because she had dealt with other private investigators over the years who messed up cases. They would jump the gun or do something that couldn't be used in court. And we're trying to save kids. You don't play around with that.
Yes. The first time I ever heard of someone that I knew using a private investigator was my mother. She had a situation where someone claimed they were hurt at work and wanted to get money from her and also her workers' comp. And so she had someone following that person, and they're hop, skipping, and jumping all over the place. They were definitely not hurt. Yeah.
They usually are doing just that. Yeah. We followed police officers that were off duty injured and literally got video of a guy doing his roof. Like up on the roof,
what?
repairing his roof.
Repairing his roof.
Climbed up a ladder and he's on the roof and he's nailing things. And Had another case with a guy that claimed he just couldn't move at all. It's the really dramatic ones. We call it a skin and contents case. And they claim like everything's messed up. Every body part is messed up. And we had one of those and got 8 hours. This was a fluke. We got so lucky. We were in the right place at the right time. Got 8 hours of video for this guy working on his vehicle. And he was a little short Hispanic guy. And he had an expedition, so a big vehicle. And he went and carried cinder blocks over by the vehicle and made like little stairs, the cinder blocks, so he could climb into the engine compartment. And he was crawling around in it like a monkey. It was just like, it was the funniest thing. And this, I can't do anything. I just sit at home and do nothing. So it was great. So that happens every now and then. That was a fluke. Like I said, we got lucky. We were in the right place at the right time. And that happens a lot with surveillance because you can't make someone leave their house and go do something. You're at the mercy of them actually leaving, which is why I can't sit still and wait all those hours for someone to walk outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else before we wrap up here? This has been really good. I knew it was going to be.
Oh, thank you. This is so fun. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm available anytime.
It
Even
is so
at 7 in the
inspiring.
morning.
We get ideas for the writing from these conversations, and whenever they're over, like kept up. It's
That's
awesome.
good. That's great.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you for the people in the room. We're going to be in the room next month, but we'll also be on Zoom. And thank you, Lynda, for getting up early and showing up. And we
Sure.
appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks.
See you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye. See you
Bye,
next time.
everyone.
Bye. Bye, everybody.